Good afternoon, Americans. This is your favorite alien here on the afternoon of Thursday, March 28th, 2024. Oh, Major League Baseball started today. And today's commentary is a serious one, especially for you Republicans, but definitely for all Americans. And the title of today's commentary is Free Speech. Today, President Trump's attorneys are trying to dismiss the case in Georgia under free speech, that he has the right to free speech. And those attorneys, especially the prosecuting attorneys, did a lousy job on both sides of determining this to the judge. Oh, yeah, we got this Supreme Court decision for this and Supreme Court decision for that. Free speech has nothing to do with Supreme Court, people. It can be said in two things for that judge. And the way I would do it if I was an attorney for the prosecution here's how I would say it. And you Republicans, listen closely, okay? Because it affects you, and you guys got to listen and get that cobweb out of your ears. Yes, President Trump has a right to say, the election got stolen. Whether it's true or not, that is free speech. Okay? He can go around the country saying, yes, I stole my election. Yeah. Remember, Andrew Jackson did it in 1824. They stole the election for him. Did they? Well, yes and no. And I'll get to those stolen elections in a second. But Republicans, hear me, especially you pain-in-the-neck Trumpers. Like I said, President Trump has the right to say, they stole the election from me. Yes. He does not, however, have the right to call the Attorney General of Georgia and says, look, I'm looking for 11,780 votes. Looking for, yeah? Which is one more vote than they got. Okay. So Biden won by 11,779 votes. Yeah. But that is not free speech. That is election interference by you calling the Attorney General of a different state and asking to find 11,780 votes. That is not free speech. It is not immunity on the presidential scale. Do you understand me, Republicans? And I'm not Democrat. I don't like them either. But here is the point. The American system works for a reason. And to call a judge crooked judge, crooked defense attorney, and this and that, and lock this person up and jail this other person, that is not free speech. That is defamation of character. Do you understand me, Republicans and Americans? Defamation of character. Yes, President Trump, there has been elections that were stolen. Some by shenanigan, but you notice that none of them crossed the line to be put as a Supreme Court election that got stolen? No. And I'll give you a couple of examples. 200 years ago, the election of 1824 between John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson was a close election, just like yours was in 2020. In some states, it was close, like Michigan, 11,780 votes. Yeah? Okay. But you could have had other states besides Michigan that you lost. Okay? I mean, Georgia, that you lost. Pardon me, Georgia. You went to Michigan and tried to find that, but that was the people that were your Republican allies tried to do something in Michigan. That's a little different. That's their fault, not yours. But in Georgia, you went after, you called the Secretary of State and personally asked for, can you look for 11,780 votes? That is definitely election interference, and you don't have immunity for that because you called them while you were president. That was still not immunity. In the other elections, 1824, it was so close it got thrown into the House of Representatives between Andrew Jackson and John Quincy Adams. And it just so happens that the powerhouse in the House of Representatives was a guy from Kentucky named Henry Clay, who had enough power that he could sway the election. And boy, he didn't like either one of them, okay? That's the point you got to look at. He didn't like John Quincy Adams. He thought he was a pain in the woo-woo. But he knew that Andrew Jackson was a roughneck. Look it up, President Trump and you Republicans, what roughneck means. Therefore, he threw his support in the House. And the House came up with the election given to John Quincy Adams. That was a stolen election, but done the right way, within the constitutional means. Okay? Andrew Jackson didn't have anybody because Andrew Jackson never liked friends. He was always antagonistic to everybody else. And it cost him in that election. If he would have had friends, hey, that would have been a different story. But Henry Clay swayed the House because he had the power. That was the one election. The other election is the election of 1876, where you have the compromise of 1877 between Republicans, and check it out, you Republicans, and Democrats. You guys wanted the presidency, and the Democrats wanted the South. Unfortunately, Samuel Tilden had won the presidency of the United States. But with the compromise of 1877, where the Democrats gave you Rutherford B. Hayes as the electors on the disputed states that were still under Reconstruction, South Carolina and Louisiana were two of them, but you needed 19 electoral votes to win. And they switched those 19 electoral votes and gave them to Rutherford B. Hayes. By today's standards, well, yeah, that could be a little shenanigan there, and that could have been in today's standard of Congress and the Supreme Court and the way the government is today, yeah, that would have been a yoo-hoo in today's standards. But back in the old days, they shook hands, created the Compromise of 1877. Rutherford B. Hayes became the Republican president, and the Solid South for the next 100 years was solid. Democrat. Dixiecrat to boot. Okay? And the last one here, President Trump, the election of 1940 between Roosevelt and Wendell Willkie. The going concern was that no president ever went for a third term. And Roosevelt, he didn't go out there and campaign, oh yeah, like Trump, I got my election stolen and I gotta go. No. He stayed in the White House, didn't campaign, didn't support anybody, and that, according to what you would think, the vice president at the time, Mr. Gardner, decided, hey, I got free reign to go get the Democratic Party nomination. Yeah. And he was good. They didn't have what you call modern day primaries in those days, but he had enough support over there to go get the nomination. Unfortunately, Mr. Gardner was akin to what you would call Vice President Kamala Harris. He was the same type of vice president. And a lot of the Democratic powers didn't think that he could beat Wendell Willkie. And Wendell Willkie had a big lead in the polls that they had at the time over Mr. Gardner. If he became the Democratic nominee, he was dead in the water in November for the Democrats. Yes. Well, what happened? They got to Chicago, who had the city that the Democrats were nominating their thing, and you had this one guy, know-nothing guy from Chicago, went up to the podium, and started saying, well, I know that, all this is being set in stone, but here's what I want to tell you. Nobody can beat Wendell Willkie but Roosevelt. And you should put him on your first ballot. Well, and who was he? He was the head of the sanitation department at Chicago. Sanitation people, yo-ho! The sanitation guy goes and does this thing. And another guy that was an ally of FDR went over there and backed him up with his speech. So come time to get your delegates to vote for the Democratic nominee, Roosevelt, by a landslide. And in 1940, Roosevelt by a landslide. Now that is a case of shenanigans to steal an election from either Gardner or Willkie, probably Willkie. So if I was Wendell Willkie, I would say, the election got stolen. They stole the election on me. But you never heard Wendell Willkie said that, did you? No. Why? So I leave you with this, Americans, especially Republicans. Free speech, yeah. Looking for, say, 11,780 votes, no. Defamating the people that are accusing you, like a crooked judge and the so-called prosecutor, and lock them up. When I get to be president, I want to make sure I jail them all. Didn't you say that, President Trump? I heard that on CNN about a week and a half ago. That is not free speech. That is election interference, which caused you all the problems you got. This is your favorite alien saying, Americans, look at your Constitution and understand what free speech is. You can't say what the hell I want to say in public. Good day.